Hello, I am excited because I have Melvina Davis here today. And those of you may be listening or you may be watching live, get your pen, get your papers, because you're going to learn some strategies on how to really incorporate self care in your life. Who doesn't need self care? So, Melvina, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Janet, for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing with your audience today.
So, Melvina, before we start getting into just talking about self care, why it's important, why we don't do it, what we should do, what made you decide to start Ignite Your Inner Power?
I started Ignite Your Inner Power because there are women who know on the inside that they're destined for more. Though on the outside they look like they have it all together, on the inside they may feel empty, they may feel disconnected, discontented, and feel like they know that they're more powerful than what they're showing up as. And those are the women that I am called to help and to serve. That's been my own personal journey. And I want to help as many women as possible to help them feel more alive, to reach their potential, and to feel content and to feel more confident.
Mm. So, part of that, of course, is self care. Because if we don't take care of ourselves, then we can't really, one, be more confident, but also, really do all the things that we're called to do. So, what are some of the reasons why we really don't put that even at the top of our list, or some people don't even put it on their list?
There are a couple of things that I want to mention in reference to that. Number one is the expectations of others, be it societal, be it religious, be it cultural. Oftentimes, women are expected to take care of others and the needs of others before they take care of their own. And oftentimes, a majority of women will, not that there's anything wrong with taking care of others, but they will do it beyond the point where it's at their expense. Because it is so necessary for us to fill our own cup so that we can take care and serve those that we love and those who we're responsible for serving.
Mm. So with that, and it's interesting you say that because sometimes when I do presentations and I'm talking about time management and being more effective in your day, it amazes me at how many people do not take just simple lunches and breaks. It's like they've got to keep working, and I keep saying if you don't refuel yourself, and plus, today, Melvina, we're in front of like those computer screens like all day long. We need a rest. So you're right. It's like we put all these other things, whether it's family or work, above everything else. So, so what are some of the things that we can do? Because when women think of self care, sometimes they think, oh, got to do a retreat or I've got to do this, that, and the other. But in regards to self care, what are some things that we can do and incorporate that into our lives and into our schedules?
Well, Janet, if you don't mind, I really want to go back to the previous question because there
Mm-hmm.
were a couple of other points that I did want to make. And this
Okay.
question is right in lines with it. And one of the issues is time constraints. You
Mm,
know, we have multiple roles, we have multiple responsibilities. We're taking care of our homes, we're taking care of our partners, we're taking care of our families, our careers, our ministries, our businesses. And sometimes by the time we get to ourselves,
mm,
we've either run out of day or we've run out of energy. So that is another constraint. But this other constraint is just as critical, and that is about our self worth.
mm,
Some women neglect their self care because they don't believe in their own worth.
mm,
They don't see their value. They base their worth, their identity on external things. You know, for example, how much money they make or how little money they make, what kind of car they drive, what type of work they do.
mhm,
And with that, and even the dynamics of their family. And so when a woman doesn't feel good about herself, she doesn't prioritize her self care. And in some cases, um she doesn't prioritize her self-care because she's been waiting for someone to validate her. She's been waiting for someone to say, give her permission or to say she's worthy enough. And maybe in her childhood or in her journey, she's felt unloved, unseen, and insignificant. And for those reasons, she hasn't made time for her self care. And so we have to realize as women that we are valuable, that we matter, and that we
Mm,
cannot wait for someone to validate us because it may not come. And
mm,
we're worthy, we matter, we're significant. God loves us. And we have to remember that. We're valuable because we have the spirit of life. If you don't mind me saying, we have the spirit of life in us. And so we don't have to wait on the expectations of others or to wait base our identity or our value on external things. And for that reason, because we value ourselves, we owe it to ourselves to take care of ourselves. And it's even an honor to God when we take care of ourselves. There's
mhm,
nothing selfish about
mhm,
self care. If
mhm,
we don't take care of ourselves, we serve others, be it at work or families or whatever, out of the worst of us and not the best of us, because we find ourselves bitter, we find ourselves angry, find ourselves fatigued, we find ourselves being resentful. And ultimately, we're responsible for ourselves. There is no one to blame. If we don't own our own self worth and we don't make time for self care, we can't blame anybody because we owe it to ourselves. And again, that is not selfish.
mhm. You're right, and
Now,
you're so right. You're so right. Because when you talked about the time, a lot of times, and I learned this from the woman that I would go get my spa treatments from. We schedule those spa treatments, but did we schedule all these appointments afterwards where it's almost like kind of defeating the purpose? Because I know when I would schedule my spa treatments, that would be like my day. I would just kind of take, a leisurely day, maybe do a few things here and there, but it wasn't like I had all these appointments set up. So I like how you touched on time.
thank you. Thank you. And so I will go back to your question. I believe you had made mention of strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Um, One thing you had made mention of is just really taking time to take a break. And some of the strategies that I want to leave with the women are: number one, make quiet time for yourself. If nobody's bleeding and the house is not burning down, you can take 15 to 30 minutes for yourself. But again, let me go back to the fact in reference to your self worth. You have to understand that your identity is not built on your performance, and your identity, growing up, we're told what a good woman looks like. We're told what a good girl looks like, what a good girl does and doesn't do. And in some cases, those beliefs just don't serve us. And so when we knock out those beliefs, then we can fully engage in taking our lunch breaks. If you're on vacation or it's your day off, do not call in. Do not call in. You owe that to yourself. You owe that to your family. The job, they'll be fine if you take your day off because others take their day off and the place will still function. It may not be perfect or as you would want it to be, but you owe it to yourself because then you run into a case of burnout. I
Mm-hmm.
learned that early in my career, even to take my lunch. And I've definitely learned in the span of a, 23 or so plus year career, when I'm taking a vacation day, I do not call in. That's end of story. And so we have to learn to stop scrolling on social media. our telephones are so distracting. I mean, they have a lot of power, but they're also very distracting. So I just want to encourage your audience to just put the phone down and to make time, prioritize time to do the things that you enjoy. So if it's reading, if it's taking a walk, if it's maybe just once a week taking yourself to lunch, do it. And the only way it's going to happen is by you giving yourself permission to prioritize those things. God didn't bless you with a life to just work.
Mm,
You owe it to yourself to live your best life, and living your best life includes making time for yourself and doing the things that you enjoy. You know, we all have different interests, we all have different desires, and as we tap in to that inner woman and to her desires and make room for her, we'll find ourselves feeling much more fulfilled. We'll find ourselves being more attentive to tackling the problems and the challenges that we face because we've made room, for ourselves. And sometimes we have to also get comfortable with doing nothing
oh,
and
yes.
not owing anybody an explanation about what
Mm-hmm.
we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
every minute of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to make an appointment with yourself and for yourself.
And you're
And
right. You're right about that, Melvina. Because, and I'm glad you talked about, because your wife and your mother, about how you need to take that time. Because I tell people, I'm single, that I have my do nothing day where I just do
awesome.
nothing. And I said it's a little easier for me because there's nobody. I'm not responsible for anybody. But I'm glad you said it's like, look, if it's not an emergency, nobody's bleeding, you need to take 15, 30 minutes. So I'm glad you shared that.
Absolutely. And they'll be a whole lot more happier. And one thing I did want to pop in, and that is for the women to keep and to make sure they make their doctor appointments, whatever it is, mammogram, OBGYN, your eyes, and let me even add therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Let me add therapy because just as we don't hesitate to go to the foot doctor for our foot, we shouldn't hesitate to see a therapist or psychologist or something for our minds and for our emotions. That is so critical. Today's times, things are moving so rapidly, so many changes, so many responsibilities. We have to take care of our minds. We have to take care of our spiritual development
Good.
as well.
That's
Self care is not just getting your nails done, it's taking care of the overall woman, your overall being, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet.
mm, that is wonderful, Melvina. So, Melvina, how do you, I guess, incorporate self care, but also how do you stay organized? Because you have so many things. Your wife, your mother, you're involved in the community, and you do a lot of different things. How do you like manage it all, but also incorporate some self care?
Well, I would say my life is not perfect, but I have learned to make time for myself in the mornings. From what I understand, what champions do, they get up early and they exercise a little bit. So I embrace that mentality. Now, mind you, it's not 30 minutes, it's not an hour, it's a few minutes, but that few minutes makes a world of a difference. In those few minutes, my blood is moving, my body, my heart, and everything is moving. My mind, ideals begin to flow because of the quiet time and just the intention of focusing on myself. From there, and even on some mornings, I am tapped into some Zoom calls where I'm in the atmosphere of motivation. I'm in the atmosphere of encouragement. um, in terms of my personal development, that's a part of my day too. I make time to read as well as my spiritual development, which is reading for me, reading the Word of God or reading a book in reference to my spiritual development. From there, I'm, running to work myself, doing what I need to do for the day. In Sometimes during the lunch period, I take a walk. Other times I have to run errands because I'm still trying to take care of my home throughout my day and manage my time effectively. From that point on, I come home, I have family time, have some quiet time, and just really try to end the evening with reading. Um, I'm involved in Toastmasters, so that is helping to build my communication and leadership skills. And that is something that I enjoy. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I had to literally give myself permission to do that because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to do it when my children were small, but it didn't work out. And so now that my children are older, I've carved out that time for myself. And I'm a lot happier. I'm a lot more fulfilled. And I just enjoy life because I have taken ownership of my own self worth.
Mm-hmm.
Learning that I can't wait on someone to validate me
Mm-hmm.
was a huge lesson in life. And
Mm-hmm.
as you may have you shared with my bio, I experienced a season of discontentment and feeling empty and feeling lost. And so the things that I am teaching women are things that I'm implementing in my own self. And even with my own self-care, I get to the spa sometimes, but for me, the biggest thing is just having some motivation, listening to motivation on a daily basis and
Mm-hmm.
reading. If I
Mm-hmm.
get that in, I'm good. But
Mm-hmm.
that's what's important to me. And every woman has to find her place of joy and follow whatever that activity is. Because when we don't, we find ourselves in other activities, which could lead to depression, anxiety, and addiction, and things of that nature. So it's important. It is so important that we carve out time for ourselves. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. If
Mm-hmm.
we
Yeah.
have the money, fine. But sometimes just hiding in the bathroom can make a world of a difference if you have a lot of people in your household.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's time when people are not going to interrupt you, I hope.
That's true. And it's just sometimes a hot bath will do it.
Absolutely.
A hot bath does, yeah, it will do it. Well, Melvina, I could talk to you all day and all night. So how can listeners and those watching live connect with you?
Absolutely. Well, your listeners can go to my website, which is melvinadavis.com. And I know that you'll leave it in the show notes for the audience. I can also be reached on social media. I encourage your listeners to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Melvina Davis. And lastly, you can reach me via email at igniteyourinnerpower, the number 100 at gmail.com.
And of course, as Melvina mentioned, I will have those links in the show page so you can connect with her directly. Well, Melvina, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the invitation. And I look forward to hearing from your listeners. And again, thank you so much for your time.